The imperial palace of Jathara glittered like a crown of frozen stars against the crimson sky. Within its crystalline halls, Ambassador Kai Chen stood before the Celestial Council, his human frame dwarfed by the towering alien dignitaries surrounding him. He had come to this distant world as Earth's representative, hoping to forge an alliance that would secure humanity's place among the galactic powers. Instead, he found himself at the center of a conspiracy that would reshape the very fabric of the universe. "The marriage contract is signed," announced High Priestess Veltara, her 6 eyes gleaming with satisfaction. Her serpentine body coiled around her throne as she regarded Kai with what he had learned to recognize as predatory hunger. "You will wed Princess Lysandra tomorrow, and through your union, humanity will become vassals of the Jatharan Empire." Kai's jaw tightened. The marriage had been sprung on him only hours ago, buried in diplomatic documents he'd been pressured to sign during what he believed were routine trade negotiations. Now he understood the trap. The Jatharans didn't want allies. They wanted to absorb humanity into their empire, using him as the symbolic bridge to legitimize their conquest. "I didn't agree to this," Kai said, his voice steady despite the fear coursing through his veins. "The documents were fraudulent." "The documents bear your genetic signature," Veltara hissed, her tongues flickering. "In Jatharan law, this is binding, refuse, and we will consider it an act of war against our empire. Your Earth will burn before your species even learns to properly navigate the stars." Princess Lysandra emerged from the shadows, her scales shimmering with bioluminescent patterns. Unlike her Aunt Veltara, the princess's expression held something resembling regret. She was beautiful in an otherworldly way, with elegant features and eyes that held ancient wisdom. But Kai saw her for what she was, another pawn in Veltara's game. "There is no escape, Ambassador Chen," Lysandra said softly. "My aunt has planned this for years. Through our marriage, she gains access to Earth's strategic position in the neutral zones. Through you, she gains the genetic key to something far more dangerous." "What are you talking about?" Kai demanded. Lysandra glanced at her aunt before continuing. "Humans possess something unique, a genetic marker that our scientists discovered during the initial contact surveys. When combined with Jatharan royal DNA through the marriage bonding ritual, it creates something unprecedented. My aunt believes it will produce offspring who transcend both species, warriors of unimaginable power. She calls them the battle deities." Kai felt his blood run cold. "You're talking about weaponizing children." "Not just any children," Veltara interjected, rising from her throne with fluid grace. "A new species entirely. Beings with human adaptability and emotion combined with Jatharan strength and longevity. They will be raised as warriors, loyal only to me. With an army of battle deities, I will not merely rule the Jatharan Empire, I will dominate the entire galaxy." The High Priestess approached Kai, her presence overwhelming. "Your species has always been remarkable for your unpredictability, your innovation, your refusal to accept limitations. Combined with our power, this new species will be unstoppable. You should be honored, Ambassador. You will be the father of gods." Kai's mind raced. He needed to escape to warn Earth to stop this madness. But the palace was a fortress, and he was surrounded by guards whose reflexes were 3 times faster than any humans. He had no allies here, no weapons, no hope of conventional escape. Then Lysandra did something unexpected. She placed her hand on his shoulder and he felt a slight vibration, a communication device concealed in her palm, transferring data directly to his neural implant. The ritual chamber, her voice whispered directly into his mind through the illegal tech. North Tower, midnight. I'm not the only one who objects to this plan. Before Kai could respond, Veltara's guards surrounded him, escorting him to his chambers, a gilded cage high in the palace's eastern spire. The door sealed behind him with an ominous hiss, and he was alone. Kai spent the evening analyzing the data Lysandra had transferred. It contained schematics of the palace, guard rotations, and most importantly, information about the bonding ritual itself. What he read made his blood run cold. The ritual wasn't just ceremonial. It involved genetic modification at a cellular level, rewriting his DNA to be compatible with Jatharan biology. The process would fundamentally change him, making him dependent on regular infusions of Jatharan enzymes to survive. He would become addicted to his captors, unable to leave even if he wanted to. And any children produced would indeed be something new, a hybrid species with capabilities that defied current xenobiology. But there was more in Lysandra's files. Records of previous experiments. The Jatharans had tried this before with other species. The results had been catastrophic. The hybrids had been powerful, yes, but also unstable. Many had died in infancy. Those who survived had proven impossible to control, their minds fragmenting under the strain of conflicting genetic imperatives. Veltara knew this. She didn't care. To her, the hybrids were weapons to be manufactured and deployed. Those who survived would serve. Those who died were acceptable losses. Kai looked out the window at the alien stars and thought of Earth. His wife Sarah, his daughter Emma. They thought he was on a routine diplomatic mission. They had no idea he might never come home, or worse, that he might return as something no longer fully human, carrying genetic time bombs that could threaten humanity's future. At midnight, Kai made his move. Using the palace schematics, he navigated the service corridors that the files indicated had minimal surveillance. His human size worked to his advantage here. The passages were designed for smaller maintenance drones, and the Jatharan guards were too large to follow easily. The North Tower loomed before him, its entrance guarded by 2 sentries. Kai waited in the shadows, heart pounding, until he heard the soft click he'd been hoping for. The guards suddenly stiffened and collapsed, stunned by some unseen weapon. Lysandra emerged from the darkness, flanked by 3 other Jatharans whose scales bore different patterns, members of a different clan, Kai realized. Not everyone in the Empire supported Veltara's ambitions. Quickly, the princess urged. We don't have much time. Inside the ritual chamber, Kai found himself surrounded by ancient technology and mystical symbols. At the center stood a crystalline altar pulsing with energy. This is where the bonding would occur, Lysandra explained. But we're going to use it differently. My allies and I have been planning this for months. We're going to destroy the genetic database that contains the hybrid research. Without it, my aunt cannot recreate her experiments. But more than that, we're going to do something unprecedented. She gestured to the altar. The bonding technology works both ways. It can merge genetic codes, but it can also propagate them, broadcast them. If we modify the ritual and use your unique human markers as a template, we can introduce a genetic safeguard into the Jatharan royal lineage itself. One of her allies, an elderly scientist named Kraven, stepped forward. We will make it impossible for any future Jatharan to attempt this hybrid creation. Your genetic signature will become a lock, permanently encoded into our DNA. Any attempt to create battle deities will result in immediate genetic rejection. The embryos simply won't form. But there's a cost, Lysandra said quietly. The broadcast will affect you too. It will change you, Kai Chen. You won't become a hybrid, but you will become something unique. A living genetic key that no species can replicate or corrupt. You'll still be human, but your DNA will carry markers that make you incompatible with any forced genetic manipulation. You'll be immune to what my aunt planned, but also, I won't be able to have more children, Kai finished, understanding. The genetic lock will ensure no one can use me for breeding programs, but it means I'll never be a father again. He thought of Emma, his 7-year-old daughter. At least he already had her. At least she would grow up in a world where this particular nightmare couldn't be replicated. Do it, Kai said. The ritual began. Kai stood on the altar as energy coursed through his body. It felt like his cells were being rewritten one by one, a burning transformation that pushed him to the edge of consciousness. He saw visions, possible futures where battle deities ravaged worlds, where humanity became enslaved, where the galaxy burned under Veltara's ambitions. And he saw those futures collapse, erased by the choice he was making now. The chamber exploded with light. Alarms began to wail throughout the palace. Veltara's guards were coming, but it was too late. The genetic broadcast had been completed. Kai collapsed to his knees, gasping, as Kraven's instruments confirmed the change. Throughout the palace, every member of the royal bloodline would be feeling it now, a permanent alteration to their genetic code, impossible to reverse with their current technology. "What have you done?" Veltara's shriek echoed through the chamber as she burst through the doors, her guards surrounding them with weapons drawn. Lysandra stood defiant before her aunt. "What you forced us to do. You would have created monsters, unleashed a new species of suffering upon the galaxy for your own power. We've ended that possibility forever." "You've ended our bloodline?" Veltara screamed. "The royal DNA is corrupted. We cannot produce hybrids now, cannot use the human genetic advantages we discovered." "Precisely," Kraven said calmly. "And the data is destroyed. You can never recreate this research." Veltara turned to Kai with murderous rage in her eyes. "You've made yourself into a living poison to my plans. I should kill you now." "But you won't," Kai said, finding his strength despite his exhaustion. "Because I've become something you didn't anticipate, a safeguard. Kill me and you risk making me a martyr. The other species will learn what you attempted. Your empire will face rebellion from within and condemnation from without. But let me go, let this end here, and perhaps your reign can survive." The high priestess trembled with fury, but Kai saw the calculation in her eyes. She was a monster, but she wasn't stupid. The political cost of his death now would be catastrophic. "Get out," she hissed finally. "Get out of my empire. But know this, Ambassador Chen, you have made an enemy of the Jatharan throne, and we have very long memories." 3 days later, Kai's ship departed from Jathara, escorted to the border by Princess Lysandra's personal guard. The princess herself came to see him off, her expression sorrowful but resolute. "What will happen to you?" Kai asked. "I'll survive. I have allies, and my aunt needs to maintain the appearance of family unity. But the empire will change after this. You forced us to confront what we might have become." She paused. "There's a legend among my people about beings who sacrificed themselves to prevent greater evils. We call them the battle deities, not warriors of destruction, but guardians of balance. Perhaps that's what you've become, Kai Chen, the first true battle deity, not a weapon but a shield. Kai considered this as his ship jumped to FTL, carrying him home to Earth. He had survived a deadly marriage plot and prevented the birth of a species that would have been enslaved from conception. But he carried the cost in his altered DNA, in the children he would never have, in the way his body now existed as a living testament to both human resistance and the dangers of playing God with genetics. When Earth came into view, Kai allowed himself to weep, for what he'd lost, for what he'd saved, and for the terrible beauty of a sacrifice that had rewritten not just his own genetic code, but the future of multiple species. The battle deity had ascended not through power, but through the choice to ensure that such power could never be misused. And in the end, that was the most human thing of all.